parts of the world. You are all indoctrinated into this. But I was lucky. I was also taken to the Western education. And with that, what it meant is that I had the opportunity to hear 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 3 in the mornings. And then I'll hear 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 7 in the afternoon. So it doesn't make sense. But you keep comparing, you keep synthesizing, then you realize one of these two facts actually makes sense. The other is threatening you to believe it. So I'm being threatened. I realized that whenever I question something, I'm threatened that your God is not happy with your questions. You're too inquisitive. Who is teaching you? Who is teaching you these kind of questions? Why are you questioning your God like this? Why are you questioning? Somebody have already thought these over for you. This is my clerics indoctrinating me. So what I concluded was that I'm not to question because someone in some country, in some time, not even my modern time, in some time millennia ago, have done my thinking for me, have lived his life for me, have dedicated his life for me, and I'm only supposed to live and obey and imbibe step by step whatever he has dictated. This is my life. And so growing up, I think in your adult years, you realize that this may not be. As a child, maybe you're beaten, you're threatened, you're afraid. But in reality, you are always in your mind, you have that doubt, but you're not sure. Maybe the elders have to be better. Maybe they grasped it better. Probably when you grow older, you'd realize what they're teaching you is the fact. And I think gradually in my secondary school, I began to tear away. But then I was on my ways of reconciling science, because I always loved science. I understood science. So in reconciling science with the Islamic science, with the facts I thought were facts, now I realized that a lot of things still do not make sense. You're still afraid. But then you thought you would have like minds, so you would ask a few friends, what is this? How does this come to this? How does this come to this? But in reality, your friends will also now start bothering and maybe getting more concerned about your well-being, your faith. Are you sure you believe? Are you a secret hypocrite? Are you doubting your perfect God? Are you this? Are you that? Then you would wonder what you actually, your friends will now realize that you are not a believer, and then they will be appalled, they'll be disappointed in you. Then your family will also come to know in future, because your friends have to know first, and maybe they will call back home and report you that you are misbehaving, you're doing something wrong. So in my early 20s, what really happened was that I realized I'm not a Muslim. I have never been. All those times I was trying to save humanity was actually me being a humanist. Then I realized I have to keep it as quiet as possible, as low as possible. I had to just cut all those things. So now, being an atheist, I realized I have to keep it very, very quiet. I have been an atheist. I think most of you heard about me about a decade ago, but in reality, I have been an atheist even half a decade before then. So in my university, I hardly pray, I hardly fast. I had to seclude myself from my friends whom I grew up with. But in reality, you are still now concerned that probably you may see better reason to reconvert. So whenever I have guests and they want to pray, I have to join. And if I am at home for holidays, I will have to join the religious rites. But deep down, I know I no longer believe it. This is about 2006, 7, 8. So I went for Hajj, and when I went to Saudi Arabia for my Hajj, I prayed to God to guide me if there was such a God, because I think I was an agnostic then. I do not know these terms. It's only now in retrospect that I'm realizing what I was at social point. So I realized I needed to pray. So I prayed, if you are there, God, I think I need guidance. I think I'm slipping away. And I think after this Hajj, I got the inspiration that I'm not wrong. This is 2008. So by 2009, I have cut off. This is when I was 24, 25 years of age. I have cut off all religious practice and I have damned everything. But this is just between myself and I. No one ever knew. Then, in about 2010, 11, then the terrorism started. All the while, I was only doing humanitarian works. I was writing articles. The internet was not as penetrated as it is now. So all you do is you write, you send emails. So I was writing about human rights. I was writing about Almajiri rights. I would share with you some of the snippets about the Almajiri. Almajiri system is a system where children underage are in a system of madrasas without any Western education. We have about, in northern Nigeria alone, northern Nigeria, we have about 8 to 10 million Almajiris as at a decade ago. Now we have about 12 to 14 million currently roaming the streets. These are 10-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 12-year-olds just roaming the streets. You may Google it and see. You just go to the images, you see appalling pictures of children sent to Qatar for themselves because they wanted them to be as good Muslims when they grow up as possible. Now, I was writing to presidents, I was writing to governments, to governors around that time. And I was trying as much as possible to deter, because I thought this was a time bomb, a social time bomb. One day, this would explode. And when it explodes, it would be terrorism. You know, we have already seen the tendencies of northern Nigeria sliding into this kind of chaos you see in Somalia. So now, in my own ways, I think I prodded the then president, which was President Goodluck Jonathan. He was very impressed by my article, and he established those. It's a system where he merged the Western education with the Quranic education, because you had to merge the two for them to accept it. So we merged the two, and he established in every state of Nigeria, I think the north, these Almajiri schools where children will go and get food and get shelter, because they don't sleep in any shelter, they sleep on the streets. So they got shelter, they got food, they got clothing, they got blankets, and we also contributed a lot in these kind of efforts. We got support from friends abroad and here in Nigeria. We raised up these things. I think all my salary I have ever made went to these efforts. I've never kept anything for myself. This is how I lived. So we tried as much as possible to see these students, these little children, out of the streets. But then Boko Haram came about. And these are when they decided, because Boko Haram came from the same Almajiri system, now it became apparent that they are grooming some of those children into their own jihad. The problem now was that the moment the terrorism started hitting, then I felt I cannot keep quiet, because they were grooming the youth in the region, the youngsters in the region. So I think the needle, we could say the needle that broke the camel's back was a video moment of beheading of a Christian lady. She's no more than 15, 18, I think, just maybe in her early 20s. So now people speaking my language, Northerners, Hausa people, or let's say Northern Nigerian Muslims, whom I see myself in whose image I could just project myself, then I saw them beheading this girl, this little woman. And so it broke all courtesy out of me, all diplomacy, all fear that I may be killed if I said I'm not a Muslim. So I had to now speak. Then I started on Facebook and Twitter. I wrote that I've left my religion, and I have to tell the world that there is no God, and that my people are mistaken. If they are blowing themselves up with these bombs, then they're not going anywhere. They're just wasting their